Alright, so we've got an old car. This is a Barclay, and it is between, I'm guessing, between 90 and 100 years old. It's really hard to get the information about these. It could be a little bit less old than that, for sure. So this is a slush cast, and it's not a die cast. Got a pretty high lead content. You can also be sure that the paint has a pretty high lead content, so we're going to have to be a little bit safe about that. It's missing a wheel and an axle, so we'll have to replace that, and we're going to need to replace these wheels because they look all cruddy. Not a lot to do here, but enough. These are really fun to restore, especially since they're so old, they have some history to them, and you can make them look like literally better than new. We're going to go for as original as possible. It's really tempting to chrome up the grill and do that sort of thing. We're not going to do that. So let's get started. So the first thing we need to do is get this axle off. And what I'm going to do, if you notice, one end is crimped, the other one is domed. So I'm just going to cut off this end. I'm not going to try and save this axle. I'm going to replace them with some of my own, and you'll see that in a bit. I got some perfect replacements. So let's get this off. This may shock you with how high quality these wire cutters are, but I found them on the side of the road. Okay, so you can buy these wheels. It is possible. They're pretty expensive. Sometimes you can get them for cheaper, but right now the cheapest I can find them are about $5 a wheel, which is just stupid. So we're going to make our own. And in the meantime, I think that what we'll do is we'll just throw this in the stripper tank, let it marinate for a while. Yeah, if you notice, I just now noticed it's got some dents in the front. There's probably not a lot we can do about that. Might just have to live with that. Maybe some putty, because, like I said, this is really soft metal, but it's also really brittle. Breaks very, very easily. In fact, if you drop this, it could potentially break in half. I'm getting low on stripper, so hopefully it'll be enough to cover it all. I restore these cars enough that I've made a mold that I can make these wheels out of. What I've done is I took a really good one of these, one that looked nice, and I used some silicone to make a mold out of it. And what I'm going to use is some hot glue, believe it or not, to create the new wheel. So it's not perfect, it's not going to be exactly the same, but the end result's very impressive. I'm going to start by prepping the mold with a little bit of Vaseline. This will just ensure that the new tire comes out without tearing the mold. These molds are kind of a pain in the butt to make, and they don't last forever. So as long as I can make it last, the easier life is for me. So I'm going to use this white glue stick out of a glue gun, and you can get these at any craft store. You may hear my dog panting behind me. I just went out and ran him. But the reason why I'm going with this instead of like 3D printing or a hard resin is this has kind of got a rubbery texture, just a little bit. It's just slightly more like the original. So now I just wait. I can cut that end off with a knife and put that on the back side of the car so you don't see it. Hopefully I didn't get any air bubbles in there. That's the hard part. And the other hard part is I got to do this 3 other times because I need 4 wheels. So I'd like to talk for a second about the economics of restoring antique toys, particularly die-cast ones, because that's what I do. A lot of misconceptions. You don't get into this to make money for sure. You get into it, well, not even really to save money. You do it because it's fun. So I thought it would be fun in this video, and I might do it in my next ones too, to start putting up on the screen how much I'm spending on materials and everything, and how much the actual restoration costs, and compare that against what one of these toys in very good condition would cost. So one of these Barclay toys in very good condition, I just looked online, and while you see them listed, you know, for stupid amounts of money, Generally, you can buy them for between $25 and $30 in very, very, very good condition. So let's say $30 for one of these in basically like new condition. Now, this casting was very cheap for me. I usually buy in bulk. Generally, the people I buy from don't know what they have. It's just like bulk toys or something like that. And I got this in a group of about 20 other really old cars, and I paid about $2 for it. So far, $2 for the casting. Now, this stripper's kind of expensive. Costs about $22 for a bottle of it, and I use about 1 ounce, maybe an ounce, is what I'm guessing. So we'll say $1 in stripper. So we're up to $3 so far. So the hardest part of cleaning out the goop from this is the inside, because you can't open it up. So I run a paper towel through it, and look, it's gross how much goop is in there. Oh, look how gross that is. So I'll run a paper towel through this several times and then wash it out again. But yeah, it's really easy to trap stripper down in there. Now, there is absolutely no point in sanding this. I know it's got some dents if you look closely up in here, but this metal is so soft it just does not sand. I've tried. I mean, you can make it look a little bit better, maybe, but it's so easy with the sandpaper to get the little details and sand those off. Way easier than normal, normal die cast, because this isn't a die cast. Lots of lead in this. It's very, very soft. But I do have some dents in the top, and what I can do is I can use putty to fill those in to make that look a little bit better. So I think we'll do that. So I'm going to use this Tamiya putty. I love this stuff. I think I paid about $5 for this tube, and we'll use probably 10 cents worth, maybe. Not much. So the trick here is you want to make it as thin as possible on your initial pass. That'll mean much less for you to have to sand off later. So one of the things that you see a lot of restorers do is they try to get around this seam line here so you can't see it. And while I agree that does make it look better, it's not a restoration once you do that. I'm trying to make it look like new. And while I can't do it perfectly, I just don't have the skills for it. I think that removing something like a casting line, takes away the part of it that's a restoration. But that's my opinion. Lots of people have different opinions about that. I like those lines. Another thing you'll see people do that they'll like add mirrors or antennas or improve them in some way, and at that point it turns into a custom, which is great. I mean, I think that's awesome if you want to do that. It's your toy. But it's not really a restoration anymore. Restorations are bringing it to how it was when it was new. So I need to let that putty dry. So while we're doing that, I'm going to show you. I normally don't show this, but these are all the products I need to paint a car like this. So you've got your airbrush cleaner, you use some of that. You got your primer, you use some of that. You got the paint. I'm going to combine these two to make kind of a darker orange. You need a reducer, a balancing clear, and then you need your top coat, which this is the one that I'm going to use. I like it for these type of cars. If you were to buy all of this at Hobby Lobby today, it would end up costing you about $47, maybe a little bit more if you include tax. Of course, we're not going to use all of this on this one car, but it ends up being that the car costs about $4-ish to paint, and that's where a lot of the expense comes in this hobby. Keep in mind, I've got hundreds of bottles of paint like this, each that costs between $5 and $10. So it can get really expensive, and we're not counting the equipment, the airbrush, or any of the equipment that I'm using in this. We're just talking about the materials that it costs to restore this car. But talking about $4 in paint, and with an investment of about $47. So I'm very lightly sanding this with the sanding stick on the finest grain. It's doesn't take much. It's really easy to do too much, and then you can actually damage the car. These sticks I get in a pack of 3. I get a pack for $3. They end up being about 25 cents a stick. The wheels pop out looking like this. I just have to cut this back part off. Not a big deal, and this will be facing into the car, so you won't be able to see it. But for every one that looks like this, I get like 2 or 3 that have bubbles in them like that. So you have to make a whole bunch of these. End up using about an entire glue stick, which costs me about 50 cents. I'm pleased with that paint job. That looks nice. I like the color. And this is pretty realistic to what it would have looked like coming off the line. And the color, it doesn't matter a whole lot as long as you're close, because they would hand mix these colors. So different batches would have different shades of orange. But this is kind of the sheen and the look. They were painted pretty heavily. So yeah, I mean, I'm really pleased with that. So now let's work on the wheels. So for that, I'm going to use these rivets. They work really well for axles for these cars, but first I need to get the rivet part off. It's easier than you think. Got my wheels. That looks really good, doesn't it? I really like that. Perfect fit, man. It's gonna look good. You gotta be careful that I don't scratch this paint. There we have it. Boy, isn't that beautiful. I love these. These are my favorite models. Well, I say that a lot probably, but I like these a lot. I always enjoy working on them. Super simple. I know they're maybe not the most interesting thing to watch. So those axles, I'm not even going to count the cost for that, and I haven't been paying attention. I'm going to put up on the screen right up there the totals of how much this cost, to give you an idea. And then we'll put up there on this side how much it would cost to buy one of these new. Or not new, but in this condition. Man, this is going to look great in my case. If you remember, this was the before, and now we have the after. And I really enjoyed this. I always enjoy working on these, and I hope you enjoyed watching it. And I hope to see you in my next video. See you later. Goodbye.